students, welcome back to my class. Today we are going to study American poet Sherman Alexie's poem Crow Testament. Sherman Alexie, as we know, is a novelist, a prolific short story writer, a poet, a screenwriter, as well as a filmmaker. He broadly represents the issues or the problems of the Native American tribes with its multiple issues. As a poet, he minces no word in describing the atrocities of the white European settlers in this virgin land where the native aboriginal tribes were living with their own culture, with their own beliefs, their own traditions, but were uprooted from all these by the European colonizers who later identified them as Americans. So, this transformation from the colored American identity to the white American identity is the canvas on which Alexie writes. The Crow Testament by him is a symbolic poem about the history of the Native Americans, and the poet provides through a numerous biblical allusions from both Old and New Testament a symbolic crow that represents the indigenous Americans and how it has been treated in the past. And the poem is chiefly about the loss of their culture, habitation, and religious faith, and even their cultural identity. And to the readers, the main idea of the Crow Testament is the voice of a protest that brings out the agonies over the loss and the suffering. As a poet, Alexie introduces many poetic devices as well as he uses a free verse structure. The poem is having 7 sections and there are refrains and repetitions used in these different sections. As a free verse poem, it doesn't contain any set rhythm or rhyme scheme or meter, and it uses irony as the chief tool of highlighting the sufferings of the Native Americans at the hands of the colonizers. The overall text consists of several couplets and tercets, and the lines are written in combination of iambic trochaic fit. He uses allusions, enjambment, simile, metaphor, alliteration, so on and so forth. And the recurring theme in his poem is mostly of the loss of culture and identity on the part of the Native Americans, and it is the theme of the loss of the Aboriginal religion that they were having, and at the same time he also brings into it so many allusions from Bible, from European history, as well as the colonial history. So let us come to the poem and look at the poem, how the poem is presenting a very poignant picture of the condition of the Aboriginal tribes of America in modern times. Cain lifts crow, that heavy black bird, and strikes down Abel. Damn, says crow, I guess this is just the beginning. So, at the very outset of the poem, he brings in the two characters, Cain and Abel, the story from the Old Testament, the two sons of Adam and Eve, where Cain murders Abel. And here he is presenting the crow as the tool of that murder. And this is the heavy crow. So here the crow symbolizes the weapon of murder in the hands of the first murderer of the mankind. Damn, says crow, I guess this is just the beginning. So the crow is thinking that damn, this word damn is used repeatedly in each section of the poem. The crow is now finding himself to be an exploiter, a tool in the hands of these white men, the adventurous travelers from Europe who wanted to settle in this vast virgin land. And this is just the beginning. The crow is lamenting that he has been used by them as a tool to kill their own people. And this is just the beginning, and the saga will continue. So here, Alexie begins with the reference to the biblical episode, and he alters the narrative to say that instead of the rock, the crow is becoming the tool and becoming the symbol of death and destruction. So the poem is going to narrate the death and destruction of the cultural, the religious, and the social life of the native tribes of America. So crow is used here as a metaphor, and the crow is personified, and the word damn is again bringing out the protest, the voice of the protest, which is not going exactly to the notice of the white man, but it is a protest within. In the second section, he says, the white man disguised as a falcon swoops in and yet again steals a salmon from crow's talons. Damn, says crow, if I could swim, I would have fled this country years ago. So again, the saga of the white man colonizing the colored man, and Alexie is using that theory of the white man's burden, when the white man, in the name of religion, in the name of his responsibility as the child of the God undertakes travel to different parts of the world and tries to colonize the colored people all over. In the name of civilizing them, he colonizes them. So the white man disguised as a falcon, so he is disguised as a falcon. The duty, the responsibility, the white man's burden, it is nothing but a disguise. It is nothing but a fraud in the name of religious responsibility. Swoops in. The word swoop immediately identifies the white man as a bird of prey, as a greedy congregator who snatches away from the natives who are identified with the crow. From the crow's talons, they steal the salmon, the food, the source of life. And here also, this particular presentation suggests too that incident when the white people built a dam on river Colorado and which prohibited the salmon fishes from traveling from the sea into the river, which was the livelihood of these tribes. So the indigenous Americans, they were being deprived of their own livelihood by the work of the white people. And again, it is tailing dam. And if I could swim, I would have fled this country years ago. If I would have the ability to escape this situation, I could have escaped. But I don't have, because the natives of America, they belong to the land. They never knew that they have to escape this land to any other new land. They were completely satisfied, content, self-content people, not like the greedy, ambitious colonizers. So they had lost that capacity to go away from their own land and escape this exploitation from the colonizers. The colonizers, they infiltrated their lands, destroyed their culture, and affected their lives. In section 3, he says the crow god, as depicted in all the reliable crow Bibles, looks exactly like a crow. Damn, says crow, this makes it so much easier to worship myself. Here again, he is bringing another idea from the Bible where it is said that God created man, Adam, in the image of himself. So the white man thinks that he is the son of the God, he is the child of the God, so God is white. And those colored people, they are not the children of God, because if the white man is the child of the God, then the God is white. The God doesn't belong to the colored people. So in this way, he is telling that then who made us? If the gods are different, and if the God has created man in his own image, and the man looks exactly like his creator, then these colored people, the crow, which symbolizes the colored natives of America, their God must be like them. Therefore, he's telling this makes it so much easier to worship myself. So if God looks like me, then I can worship myself. And this is an ironical statement towards the religious hypocrisy of the white man, who said that the white people are the children of the God. Therefore, the poet is telling then the white people wants that he should be worshipped by the colored people. So this section here, the crow is resenting the religious imposition on them by the white people. And the Europeans who started converting the American Indians into Christianity without bothering about their own aboriginal beliefs. And in this way, they use religion as a tool of colonization. And Alexie implies that the religion serves their cruel motives. In section 4, he says, among the ashes of Jericho, crow sacrifices his firstborn son. Dan, says crow, a million nests are soaked with blood. Here again, another biblical reference is given, the battle of Jericho, when the Israelites completely destroyed the city of Jericho and killed almost all the natives of Jericho except the two. And here again, in the name of the God's law, the process of annihilating the natives is being perpetuated by the colonizers. In the pretext of witch hunting, in the pretext of alleviating the blind faiths on the part of the aboriginals, these people started the cleansing of the colored people. So it is again an exploitation, a hypocrisy in the name of God's law. And Dan, says crow, a million nests are soaked with blood. So millions of Native Americans, they were wiped out. And the history of America says that the day the Constitution of America was accepted, millions of Native Americans were wiped out from the surface of earth. So in this way, again, it is a symbolical resenting of the colonial behavior. In section 5, he says, when crows fight crows, the sky fills with beaks and talons. Another aspect of the colonial theory that he brings, and he says, the colonizers, they established their colonies and consolidated their colonies by the principle of making the inhabitants fight among themselves, divide and rule. So, crows fight crows. So, these colonizers, they converted and educated some of the natives and made them turn against their own people. And as a result, the sky fills with beaks and talons. There is large-scale violence. The natives, they fought amongst themselves and they destroyed their own brotherhood. They destroyed their own generations of togetherness. Damn, says crow, it is raining feathers. So in this way, what happens? By making them fight against one another, the colonizers grabbed their land, grabbed their wealth, and made them look inferior before their own civilization. They imposed their own civilization on the natives and made them feel inferior and uncivilized. In section 6, he says, crow flies around the reservation and collects empty beer bottles, but they are so heavy he can only carry one at a time. Here, the poet is referring to the so-called modernization and urbanization of the natives, because not only the conversion into religion, not only the divide and rule, but in the name of being the benefactor, in the name of improving their lives, the colonizers the colonizers introduced their own lifestyle. In the name of modernizing them, they snatched away from the natives their age old livelihood, their age old habits, their age old social practices, and made them strangers in their own land. So, crow flies around the reservation and collects empty beer bottles. So, here the beer bottles represent the shallow modernism, the shallow modern civilization, rational civilization, scientific civilization introduced by the colonizers. And they are so heavy, he can only carry one at a time. That these natives, they were made familiar with the new practices of life. They are given the intoxicants, they are given new kinds of clothes, they are given new kind of education, new religion, and as a result they became solely dependent on the colonizers. And from being self-sufficient, they become poor. They suffered from poverty, deprivation. So they become the beggars. They collected the empty beer bottles of the colonizers from the reservations and sold them for their own livelihood. He can only carry one at a time. And it suggests that the natives, though they adapted to the lifestyle of the colonizers, but they could not adapt to it properly because they were not aware of its mechanism. Therefore, they remained poor. So one by one he returns them but gets only 5 cents a bottle. So he carries only one bottle every day and sells it for his livelihood and he gets 5 cents. Here 5 cents suggesting the meagre living that the natives could make out of this new way of life. Damn, says crow, redemption is not easy. So the crow here suggests that the sociological and the ecological effect of the colonization completely ruins, completely destroys, completely alters the native landscape, the native lifestyle, and the native becomes a stranger, an alien in his own land, and he suffers from the poverty. So here, the crow finds it difficult to redeem its community from this heinous cycle of suffering. This ironic remark, redemption is not easy, also hints at the poet's hopelessness regarding the future of his people. That all these imbibing new values from the colonizers won't take them into future as developed people, as self-sufficient people. In section 7, the final section of the poem, the poet says, crow rides a pale horse into a crowded powwow, but none of the Indian panic. So, the crow is riding a pale horse. It is again an allusion to the horseman of the apocalypse. He rides into the crowded powwow, a gathering, on a pale horse. So the book of Revelation, where it is shown that there are the riders on a pale horse. The fourth horse, that is pale green, stands for death. So here the crow is depicted as a messenger of death. And one of the horsemen who is riding on it is the horseman of the apocalypse. So the fourth horseman is shown as a destroyer of an empire. The crow rides the horse into a crowded powwow. A powwow is the traditional social gathering of Native Americans, and this new values, this transformation of the native into the colonizer's civilization takes him towards the destruction of his old history, old tradition, old culture. So the final lines, the crow ironically remarks that they are not showing signs of fear as they know that the apocalypse is near. But though they know that certain death and destruction is there, but none of the Indians panic because they know they're moving towards certain death and destruction. Damn, says crow, I guess they already live near the end of the world. So the poet is telling, as these natives, they know that there is no escape from their ultimate destruction. So there is no panic. So here the poem is having so many symbols. The crow is a symbol, Cain and Abel, falcon, salmon, beer bottle, pale horse. All these are symbols. So this is a poem that is concerned about the adverse effects of colonization on the rich traditions, rich civilizations of the aborigines in America. The poem, we can find few questions can be asked, like justification of the title, Crow Testament. So here testament means it is the true story or the proof of the life experience. So it is a biblical allusion, and as I have said, that the crow is a symbolic reference to the indigenous American, and Alexie points out the similarities between the crow story and the actual biblical narrative. So the title bears the term testament, and in this way it can be justified. And also the question can be asked about whether Crow Testament is a critique of Christianity. It is not exactly the critique of Christianity, but it is criticizing the exploitation of Christianity as a religion in the name of God's law, in the name of the religious practices, in the name of religious responsibilities, how the white men of Europe have exploited the civilizations all around the world of the colored people and imposing or instilling in their mind a sense of inferiority and submission to the white man. So I hope that you people will be able to answer these questions, and you will be able to bring the historical context of the poem while you are answering your question.